Well, I want to get your thoughts on the main event, man. With Marlon and Cory, both of them are kind of in interesting positions, and I kind of wonder who you think has more to gain out of this opportunity, right? You got Marlon, the guy that probably should have been in a title shot already and kind of had it taken away from him. And then you got Cory, who's the guy that everybody thought was the next big thing in the division, and then he got shut down in his last one out.
Yeah.
So who do you think's got kind of the higher stakes here right now?
I think the higher stakes go to Marlon, just because, like you said, he had the title shot kind of in front of him. The pandemic hits, things kind of change. He was booked to fight Jan in June in Kazakhstan. But I think it kind of sways towards Marlon, because we know how this sport goes. Nothing is guaranteed until the two guys are actually in the octagon competing. I'm under the pretense it's going to be Aljamain Sterling versus Peter Yan, but Marlon goes out and has a stellar performance against Cory Sandhagen, which is going to be a pretty tall order. He might snatch that away from Aljamain Sterling. But I think the stakes are also high for Cory Sandhagen. I mean, he's been one of the, if not the most highly touted prospect in all weight classes right now. He needs to go solidify that, and he needs to go out and get this win. So it's high stakes for both guys, but I think that Marlon goes out and puts on a stellar performance. He could steal that title shot from Aljamain Sterling. So stakes are high all the way across the board.
No doubt. Stylistically, I mean, these two guys are high-level martial artists, so it's not just striking versus grappling, but those would seem to be the things that kind of stand out for both of them. I mean, do you think that's ultimately what this fight boils down to?
I don't think it's going to be striker versus grappler. I think it's going to be striker versus striker. I think, to grapple to Marlon Moraes, you got to get in his space, and that's a hard thing to do. I think it's going to be the story of the fight is going to be, if it ends in the first half, it's going to be Marlon. I mean, the guy's a fast starter. He's a high octane fighter. But Cory Sandhagen's got the style where he can control the space. He can control the fight. And, if it goes into the later rounds, I see Sandhagen winning this fight. So it's very interesting. And I think the outcome of this fight really kind of hinges on Marlon's gas tank. And I'm not trying to dog on the guy. He's that type of guy where he starts hot and he wins fights. I mean, he's got like 13 first-round finishes through his whole career. So, you can get out of that first, second round, you can kind of dictate the fight. So I think it's really going to kind of boil down to like, how's Marlon's conditioning? How is he going to go full throttle from the first round, or is he going to kind of try to control his cardio, kind of control his pace? It's going to be really interesting.
Nice. I know you're a fight fan, so outside of the main event,
yeah.
Is there a fight that whether it be a fighter or a fight itself because of the style, or something that you're really just tuned into, can't wait for?
So yesterday I did my first round of fighter meetings. When you do the analyst job, you don't really do the fighter meetings. You kind of show up, like Thursday, and you're kind of just doing the pre-show, post-show stuff. So yesterday I told him, hey, I want to do as much stuff as I possibly can while I'm here. I'm here for 3 weeks, so I want to go to the fighter meetings. And it's not particularly just the matchups, it's the guys. Getting to see him, the KB Bular guy, he is hilarious. I'm excited to watch him. Getting to see some of these personalities, the Dricus Duplessis kid, 2-division champ in EFC. I think there's big things coming from him. So it's more like the personalities. I'm always looking at the matchups. I'm like, I'm excited for this fight. I'm excited for this fight. But now it's like, I got to actually kind of interact with these guys individually. So now I'm more like, I'm interested to see these guys singularly. So, obviously I think the main event's going to be awesome. I think Edson versus Makwan Amirkhani. I think if we're talking what matchup am I most excited for, I mean, that's the one. I love a striker versus grappler fight. I think it's always interesting. I think you get a lot of, those are the fights I think you get surprised, because sometimes the grappler goes out and knocks someone out. Sometimes the striker decides he wants to submit someone. So I think that's going to be the most interesting fight. But for me personally, I'm just more focused on like the singular personalities. I mean, if you could have sat in for the KB Bular fighter meeting, I think I'm saying his name right. They haven't gave us the pronunciations yet, but. Dude, I when he walked out, I go, hey, he's got to open for Adam Hunter. This guy is like hilarious. He is just like, he had us rolling, laughing so hard. And so I'm excited to watch a lot of these guys individually. So it's going to be a fun card.
Very cool. Outside of this card, what's going on with you, man? You had a big win early in the year,
yeah.
Now on the sideline. So what's the update?
Well, so, I had to have surgery, and that was supposed to be scheduled for like March, April. Pandemic hits, gets pushed back to July. It was supposed to be like a 4 to 6 week recovery, supposed to be on crutches for like 2 weeks. The surgery did not go good, and I was on crutches for 2 months. I haven't had sparring yet. I've just, in the last month been able to get back to rolling and stuff. Still having some issues, but I'd like to think by January I could get in there. I'm trying to push for December, but the team around me, they're just like, dude, you're in Fight Island for 3 weeks. You haven't sparred in months. I haven't wrestled in months. I haven't done the things that I'm able to roll. I've been doing some gi jiu-jitsu. I've been doing some grappling, but haven't really been back to full 100%. So I think January seems more realistic. And when you look at the landscape of the division, I got to be on point for whoever I fight next. I mean, I'm looking ahead of me. I think I'm going to get a guy ranked ahead of me by the way things are looking. So I got to be on point. I got to be 100%. And, so that's the main focus, is being healthy. And it's kind of nice being out here. It's like I have so much going on at home. It's nice to be out here. It's like 3 weeks of just focus on fighting, focus on, I got the UFC, the PI, their physical therapy staffs here. So I'm able to get the top-notch treatment. I'm able to train, so I'm making the most of it. But, my eye's still on the prize. I want to compete. In my year, it's just like everyone else's in here. My year got fucked up. Pardon my language. But, it was like everything just got scrambled, from the pandemic to, surgery getting pushed back to the surgery going bad. When you're supposed to be in a half-hour surgery and it ends up being 6.5 hours, and your legs in a fucking tourniquet for 6.5 hours, things don't really go good.
Something go wrong in the surgery, or
something went wrong. Something went wrong, and I don't really want to elaborate on it too much because when the cameras are off, I'll tell you all about it. But I don't want to let the opponents out there know that I got obviously it's a leg issue, but yeah, so it was, it's been a rough year, but we're getting to the tail end of it. I'm glad that I'm able to run, I'm able to lift weights, I'm back to rolling, but I need to get back to sparring. I need to get back to the hard training, the stuff that got me where I'm at now, and a lot of exciting matchups. We'll see how things pan out. So
sorry to hear about your shitty year.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear about your guys' too. I'm sure we all got something.
You didn't have 6-hour surgery.
Yeah, fuck, that was bad.
Well, 10 hours, I think. I wanted to ask you, as a fighter and as an analyst, how much of an importance do you put on the cornerman? How invaluable are cornermen to their fighter?
Well, it's very important for a lot of things. I think that when it comes to the way I approach it and the way my team approaches it, I think less is more. I think that you go through your training camp and you should be programmed to know what you have to do in a fight. Like, you should have a game plan. These things should be programmed into your body to where you're not having to think about it, and they shouldn't have to be saying it on the sidelines. I feel like less is more. When it comes to the way that I like to be cornered, I don't really like to be told what to do during a fight. I like to have my focus be on my opponent. I'm already kind of, when I compete, I'm already kind of picking up on things I shouldn't be. But that's just when your senses are as high as they could possibly be and your adrenaline's dumping. You might listen. You might hear Bisping say something. You might see someone in the crowd. I have a few funny stories about that type of stuff too. But the last thing I want to do is I don't want to hear my cornerman unless it's something dire. Like if I know that if my coach Rick Little says something, I know it's something like it needs to be emphasized. But he's not a guy that's gonna be like 1-1-2, 1-1-2, left kick, circle right. It's like, well, he can fucking hear it. And especially cornering is very important now because look at the environment we're fighting in. I mean, you can hear a rat piss on cotton in some of these situations. So it's like unless you're Mark Henry and you have code for everything, your opponent's going to hear it anyways. But, some guys like to be coached, some guys don't. I think it's something that you have to control as a fighter. You know what you need, and I think it's a personal preference. But cornering is very important. You just got to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And maybe you have to have a hard conversation. It's not easy to be like, hey, I want you to just not say anything. Or, hey, I want you to say more. It's like sometimes that's a hard conversation to have. But I know what I need, and I think that a lot of these other guys need to kind of be more vocal about what they need.
Well, it sounds like if you don't want too much advice, you would be a fan of Mike Perry's school of thought, and you should probably start auctioning out your cornermen.
The Mike Perry thing, everybody forgets about Cody McKenzie. Everybody forgets about my man Cody McKenzie, and he was the first guy to do this. Like, he did this a long time ago. I'm pretty sure it was UFC 148. He had Lyle Beerbaum, Ronda Rousey, and somebody that paid to be in his corner. So you talk about it. I mean, only the hardcore fans know about Lyle Beerbaum, but everybody in this room, we all know about Ronda Rousey. And then someone paid him like a lot of money. Like, I want to say upwards of 10 grand to be in his corner. And I'm pretty sure it was UFC 148. So, but like Cody's really on social media very much in the prime of his career or now. So people forget that he had done that before. And I think it's funny, but it's getting a little out of hand. It's like, I don't know. Hey, Mike knows what's best for him. So if that's what Mike's the type of guy, he's going to fight the same way. You try and tell him to throw a jab, he's going to throw a hook. He likes to throw hooks. He's like, that's how he likes to fight. So different strokes for different folks. I think it's getting a little excessive, though. I think it's getting a little out of hand.
But if Cody can get 10 grand, then Darren Till needs to up his offer, is what you're saying.
Well, judging by the GoFundMe, it's like at 25,000 pounds or something like that. I think, is that what it's at? I think that's what last time I checked, that's what the set amount was. that's a lot of money. So I don't think Darren Till's travel expenses are going to be more than $2,000. So, it's interesting. It's what an interesting time, but, it's Mike Perry, dude. The Mike Perry show. He's an entertaining guy inside and outside the octagon, but he knows what's best for him. I just think it's getting a little bit out of hand.
Okay.
I know if somebody was, you guys saw how I handled Kevin Lee with the mom thing. I can honestly say that would never happen again, but if someone started, memes about Kelsey Joe, I probably wouldn't fight you. I'd probably just wait till I catch you like International Fight Week and like smash a beer bottle over your head or something, who knows. But I feel like Mike Perry's the type of guy, like, he's going to let Till do it, and then, like, as they're raising his hand, he's just going to, like, turn and, like, knock Darren Till out or just something crazy and over the top, you know what I mean? You don't know what to expect from the guy, and you don't know what to expect from this whole situation, so I think it's just, like, time to, like, let's find the happy medium.
And the last one for me, you mentioned it, you said you had a funny story potentially about Michael Bisping.
Oh, no, it's just me saying in general, like, I have funny stories about me fighting and, like, seeing things in the crowd, this and that. I don't have any funny stories, but I'm sure there's other people in this room that have some funny Mike Bisping stories. These are pretty. If
you can remember what's the most obscure thing you saw in the crowd or heard from the crowd that kind of fucked you up a little bit in the fight.
I remember I was fighting Joe Lozon at Foxwoods, and that was when they brought like all the Tough 20 cast, like all the females. They brought the Tough 20 cast and they did like the red carpet event, and I like pinned Joe on the fence in the clinch, and I look and I'm like, oh, there's Felice Herrig. And then I hear her go, "Go, Joe!" And like the loudest voice. I just remember like, "Fuck you!" Took him down. And Felice is great now, But in my head, I remember it was F-bombing. I'm sorry about the bad language. I'm a little off my rocker right now, but I remember just, "Go, Joe!" And like the most shrill voice. And I was like, "Fuck you!" Bless her heart. She's an awesome person. She's. That's just at the time. I'm in the middle of a fight, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, you want him to win? Take that." I lost anyways, so whatever, Felice. Yeah. I another one, real quick one. When I fought Francisco Trinaldo, you know how they spray the adhesive on the canvas? Well, I didn't know this at the time, but as the fights go on, it peels up and it kind of looks like sand. So I remember in the second round, I took him down and he almost got me with that arm and guillotine. And when I was on top of him, and I looked and I didn't realize it peeled and looked like sand, I said this verbally. I go, "Wow, looks like there's sand in the octagon." And then I looked at him, he was just looking at me, and I said to him, "Oh, you don't speak English?" And then we just kept fighting.
To this day, he's probably like, "What?"
Yeah, I know. I'm like looking, I'm like, "Whoa, it looks like there's sand in the octagon." And I just look, and he's just looking up. And I'm like, "Oh, you don't speak English." Fuck. Yeah. Good times.
Looking at the welterweight division, a lot's happened since your last fight. Tyron lost again. Leon Edwards can't really seem to get a fight. Stephen Thompson's now calling him out, which never really happens. And then, of course, Khamzat Chimaev just kind of broke onto the scene. So I know you want to fight above you, but a lot's happening in this division. So what do you make of the division as a whole right now?
It's just chaos. And it's cool chaos because once the matchups start getting made, it's gonna be fireworks. You got so many different styles, so many different personalities, a lot of rising prospects, guys that are ranked, guys that are unranked. There's a lot of moving parts to it. It reminds me a lot of what lightweight was back in like 2018. You know what I mean? When you had Ferguson as an interim champ, you had Conor as a champ, you had Khabib on the rise. It reminds me of the lightweight division back in the 2017, 2018, around that time. But yeah, I think just matchups got to be made. I see where Leon's coming from. It's like I've wanted to throw my ring in the hat to fight him, but it's like, why would I even try? He's on an 8-fight win streak. I'm not a big Twitter beef guy. I don't like to I'm not really into that type of stuff. But it's like, why? He's not going to take the fight. I think the Wonder Boy fight would make sense for him. I know they're both managed by they're both Paradigm guys, I think. So I don't know. I could see why guys are holding out, and I could see why guys want to jump up and fight ahead. Khamzat's, from what I've seen, the guy's legit. He's like a dual threat. He could fight at 70, he could fight at 85, and he could beat contenders, I think, in both weight classes. But it's like you can see things from Wonder Boy's side of things too. It's like he's earned his spot. He's put his time in. He's fought for the title a few times. You can't. I think the fans are easy to jump on him, as they always are, to say you're a pussy. You need to fight this guy. It's like, well, dude, he earned his spot through a lot of hard work, through some losses, through some wins. Can you blame the guy? You know what I mean? That's a tough fight. Khamzat's a tough fight for pretty much anybody at 170 pounds. Doesn't mean he's not beatable, But I respect these guys' stances. But at some point, something's got to give. Matchups got to get made, and the division's got to get some movement. So hopefully I can shake things up here soon.
So say you get healthy and they approach you with a Khamzat fight, who might not be ranked, but he seems to be the biggest name that people are talking about now. It's like, as a fighter, do you look at that, or are you still like, I want to fight above me rather than the biggest name?
It's still, I mean, you got to think about it like this. He beats a guy like a veteran, let's say hypothetically he beats a Wonder Boy. Now it's lucrative. Now it's like, hell yeah. Now he's proven that he's the real thing. But it's like, I lay it on the line. He beats me. He takes my spot. I beat him. They're like, oh, it's a flash in the pan. You know what I mean? And I probably don't move up the rankings either. So it's like, dude, I'm trying to fight for a world title, and it's all about, you got to do smart business. You got to do good business. You got to do smart business. But the guy's legit. I respect the skills. I just don't know if that's the fight that I would want right now. He beats a guy, gets ranked, different story, But if at this point in time, it's like, I can see why all these guys don't want to fight him. It's not that they're look. There's not a guy on the roster that's afraid of anybody. Okay, that's just when someone says that. Oh, this Joe Smo is afraid of John Smith. Like, fuck no, dude. This is the fighting business. We're all here for a reason. But it's all about doing business. This is also a business as well as it is a sport. So you gotta do smart business.
And finally, what do you make of Colby Covington's comments recently? That's kind of put some light on your division.
I don't really have a lot of positive things to say about the guy. I'd rather not.
Sure.
I don't really know how to eloquently answer that question. I know I've slipped a few F-bombs in this little interview, but I think it's best I don't answer that question. I think no, I'm not trying to turn questions down. I just don't really want to answer that one.
Understood.
Yeah.
Yesterday was a 2-year anniversary of Khabib Conor fight.
Yeah.
And you happened to be the part of the whole story,
Yeah.
the bus and everything. Now looking back, do you think it was a positive thing, like the whole build up for the business, for the UFC?
No, not at all. No. I'll answer the Colby Covington question before I even touch that one. But that was not good for the sport at all.
But affected you personally too. So.
Yeah, for sure. More ways than one. Hi, how are you? I'm good.